to Versus Game. I'm the Minion, and today I'm going to be uh, doing a little story time of beer tabs and body counts. This one is called Sultan in the Sun, and this is one of my favorite matches as Mason Dawn against a guy named Danny Sultan. And once again, I kind of changed names, but it's basically the same. Um, you know, as much as I could remember from the matches and everything. I have to write these down because I noticed even trying to remember them to myself, I start going from one match into another one, and they kind of all start mixing together. So I'm trying to keep them together so that I remember what's what. But so he's like an average looking enough, but he was 6'3", which is kind of rare in my hometown. So he had like the kind of cool rocker vibe, kind of like the headbangers and like mixed between that like DX back in the day. Um, so it was gonna be kind of an interesting, me versus him because he's at least a foot taller than me, and he was really good at selling, the whole David versus Goliath kind of aspect of it. And so we had a kind of decent rivalry for what you can get out of a crowd that you almost never see again. Because the loyal fans are usually either, too drunk or you just don't really see them all that often. You kind of get repeat, fans here and there. But sometimes people just want to see other people beating the crap out of each other. So you never get used to it, but as long as you get some money out of it and a few minutes, you don't think too much about it. So one day where they set up the ring at this like flea market on a side of the town I'm not like really familiar with. I'm from like the lower end of town, and they're more in the kind of ritzier area, I guess, which is kind of miles from me. Um, and so I didn't learn how to drive for like a good long time, so I'm still not really familiar with my own city. And I remember we showed up and we're like, is this the right place? I don't think this is the right place. But you can see the ring set up, and it's kind of like just in a like there's walkways and stuff like that. But there's like a little area off by itself. Um, and so the ring's set out in the open, and the sun's just beating down, and it's summer and it's hot, and there's no dressing room. There's like no building. There's no like standing like structure or whatever like that. There's just a bunch of tables set up, and people have their little gazebos, and they're all there like little bric-a-brac and stuff like that. And there's like rows of porta potties, um, but nothing you would consider a building. It's just kind of like a big parking lot, and people set up in there and kind of set up rows and stuff like that. They do that downtown. I'm not sure if they still do all that much, but I used to go to that one. That one I'm familiar with. Um, so someone at least had some foresight to set up those like little misting things that like shoot out water, like to kind of keep the area cool. And we had just like a giant family tent, like that you go camping in, and that was essentially our like dressing room, and where we came out of. So, because we had like no doors or anything like that to come out of. So, Danny's in the tent, and he's um, putting on sunblock when I come in to change, and so because that's our dressing room, one of the girls is like helping him with his back because as long as his arms are, he can't, you know. Sometimes you have muscle. I mean, I don't have muscles anymore. I can kind of zoom here, but you can't really reach your back even when don't have muscles. So it's kind of helping him. Um, and so one of the girls helps me out a bit, and since It was like we were wrestling on the sun. I was still wearing the ugly yellow tights and no shirt, so I decided to go with no shirt that time. And the irony, when my entrance music came on, hit me right as I opened the flaps to the tent. It was just beating down. Um, so I leave the tent and I make my way towards the ring, and I see like a kind of small group just surrounding. You see people walk by and kind of just look off to, oh, what is that? But only a few people stop, or they watch for a few minutes and keep going. It's more out of curiosity than actually wanting to watch us. The difference between the tent and the ring is apparent the moment that I get to the ring. You can feel the heat from the asphalt just as it's coming up. And our summers here like sometimes get really bad. So once I'm in the ring, I do a little, like grandstanding kind of, and I look back as Danny's music kicks on. I think I remember it's Offspring, the All I Want, and he has these green tights with like purple slashes that run down the sides. Kind of looks like almost like a Macho Man, like when they were the Ultimate Maniacs and stuff like that, and they kind of had like this coloration and stuff. Um, so he bolts out of the tent like he's on fire, waving his arms. He's like, doing windmills and running around, and he runs around the entire ring and hops up on the apron and like, I've seen a couple of wrestlers do that now, where they jump up on the side of the apron and um, so he's waving his arms and everything, and hyping up the crowd as much as he can in the heat, because people are just out there and they're miserable buying crap. So he's been out of the tent all of a minute, and like now he's like drenched in sweat. Like I just took a shower and my hair is like still a little wet. He was like just drenched. And so I try to stare him down, which is kind of weird because he's like a foot taller than me. So like he's already like almost level, just standing into the ring. So when he gets there, it's like, I don't know. You've seen the Rey Mysterio like kind of look up. Um, and so I'm glad he doesn't get too close because his chest is like basically right there. Um, and so the bell rings and he swings at me, but I duck and I knee him in the gut. And so I wrap my arm around him and I fall back in a DDT. And so his head hits the canvas, and that's when I realize he's kind of slippery. He put on a little too much suntan lotion or sunblock. So I stand up and I give him a stomp to the back, which leaves a big black footprint from the asphalt. And he sells it pretty well, but as he struggles to get up, you can see the size of my puny foot on his massive back. Um, he leans in the corner, and I start to charge at him, and he dodges. And I go into the turnbuckle, boom. And I lurch away towards the middle of the ring when I see a shadow. And boom, scissor kick right into my shoulder blades. And I go down to the mat. And you can hear a woman gasp and hear groans and stuff like that. It was really good. Like, he got me just right perfectly. I know some people have gotten injured where they like snap it and but he got it like to push me more than to like actually kick me in the back. So I go to the floor. And he does, raise his arms to the people that are watching, and he starts to pick me up, and I can hear him like say, "Turnbuckle," and I'm like, shit, because I know we're like kind of far from the turnbuckles. We're kind of we're in the middle of the ring, and so he grabs both his hands around my neck, and just boom. He just like kind of dips, like we both together, and boom, ready to jump, just, and he throws me. Um, So I leave the ground and he pushes me and I just go sailing back, and more gasps, more pain, and the only thing I can think of, damn, that was far. um, I don't get to think too long when I see him rushing towards me, and I get my foot up and plant it right in his chest, and he stumbles away, and there's another footprint. So I catch my breath for a second and see him turn back to me, and I charge and connect with a jumping clothesline, and we both go down. And it's so hot that like every little movement that we do, just more sweat, and it's hard to breathe in the heat because it's just like I don't know how like football players and like stuff do that, and like I was in football, but I don't remember like it being that rough. Because you have like little resting periods between plays. Here you're just constant at it, or you're on the floor and trying to like catch your breath. So I tried to pin him, but I don't even get like a one count. Um, so I get up slowly and give him like a few more stomps. So he's starting to look like kind of a leopard. He's got all these asphalt footprints, and his flesh is like he's kind of like a whiter guy than me, I guess. But I don't burn as much in the sun as he was like starting to turn like red. And so I give him like another stomp, and then I start to pick him up, and then he elbows me in the chest, and I'm like, oh, I'm stunned for a minute, and then he gets another elbow, and then he locks me up, and I then spring in my air with his leg. He springs but he springs me up into the air with my legs like just going straight up, and he holds me there for a second, and then bam, falls back in a suplex. So he just and then so I'm there, like we're both on the floor for a second, and then he decides to give me an Irish whip into the ropes, and then I bounce off of it and right back at him, and like into my chest. He goes, whoop, spine buster, like right to the floor. And so he kind of like, yeah, like see him taking out this puny guy, and picks me up again and gives me like a solid chop across the chest, and just, and I know like I've always seen him like in some of the wrestling, like you always hear like ooh like that once, like I had always worn a shirt, so like it hurts, but it like you don't realize how much the flesh on flesh just stings, just blah, hits you like so hard. Let me see. Okay, I don't know what that was. And so all I can think is like, fuck, that stings. And then so he keeps getting me like a couple more chops, and he just backs me into the corner. And my back's in the turnbuckle, and he throws in a couple of kicks to my midsection, and then he does that thing where he puts his foot on my neck and like kind of chokes me on the turnbuckle, and I'm trying to breathe, and then so I start tapping his leg, but I start tapping in a way that he like to signal him like, no, I really can't breathe. So he gives me one like really good shove with his foot, and he backs off, and he's like arguing with the ref and stuff like that, like pretending like, yeah, like, hey, what are you doing? And, like trying to buy me some time. And all I'm thinking is, for the love of God, just don't pass out. It's so hot. I can't breathe enough, and he's like there. So I like slide down and sit and start trying to get back to my feet. And then I feel his hands on my shoulders. And he's like, "You good?" And I'm like, and without waiting for me to answer, he just kind of lifts me onto the turnbuckle. And I go, "Yeah." And then I try to swing at him. And so I kind of get him like in the chest, but not too good. But he's like, "Oh, and he comes back with like a blow zone. So we're like they're kind of trading like blows a little bit, and then finally he gets me, and he hammers down on my head, just bam. And so he positions me. We're both standing, and my legs are about to go vertical again, and I can feel like the panic, because I'm he's got me like we're just, and he's got me, dude, and he throws me into the turnbuckle, and he starts lifting me onto it, and I'm still there trying to like fight against him. And I was like, oh. So we're up there on the turnbuckle, um, and he lifts me up in the air, and he held me there, like he just holds me there for like a few seconds, and like off of the turnbuckle, just bam onto the floor or onto the mat, and the only thing I could think of was like, oh, the air feels nice, and then wham, I bounced off the mat, like, and like the mats usually like you get like a pretty good give from it, but boom, I like bounced, um, and so he goes in and he goes for the pin. It's like 1, 2, 3, and I kick out. I was like, why did I do that? I was like, I could have just ended it there. I was like, people wouldn't have cared. Um, but he picks me up again, and another Irish whip into the ropes, and I duck under his clothesline against the ropes, and I connect with a spear, or my version of a spear, I guess. Everybody kind of has their own version. I like mine's just like kind of an arm around the waist, and as long as I get him down, but I managed to get him, and he goes, he goes down. You know, makes it seem believable, I guess. Um, and so I'm really weary at that point. Um, but I managed to get him up to his feet, and I kick him in the midsection, and like he bends down, so I hook up both of his arms, and then I do the double arm DDT. I do a lot of DDTs because I can't really. Guys are big, and I wasn't really that strong. And so I get up there, and he lays there for a moment, and I'm not sure what possessed me, because I should have like tried to pin him at that point and made it. But I decided it'd be a good time to climb the turnbuckle. And so as I make it up to the top and I position myself, I'm like gonna do an elbow. Um, I turn around and then he's actually gotten up and he's stumbling towards me. And so if I try an elbow now with how tall he is, um, I'm either gonna end up hurting him by hitting him with like an actual elbow in the head that he's not ready for, or I'm gonna hit him with an elbow and kind of just throw myself out and land on my back. So I end up trying to do like a cross body block, and so I jump, and then he catches me with like no effort, and so I start trying to wriggle out of it, and he manages to hit me with a couple of forearms while still holding me, and I'm like this tiny little baby in his arms, and so I stop moving after those, and so he gets me, and he does a fall away slam, so he falls to his back and just and I guess he did it so hard when he fell back that I just go rolling and I fall out of the ring. And the cloth on the mat was kind of warm. It's kind of like when you get your, like, you've been sitting in the heat too long or something like that, and you're like, ah, it's a little warm, whatever. You'll get a little hot, but it didn't feel that bad. The burning hot plastic vinyl that they have on that covers the mat, it was like, oh, it hurt. I was like, I didn't know what to do. It burned. So I screamed in pain, like like ah, like I can't even hit that high right now. I'm kind of sick. So I kind of scream, and I awkwardly get up and try not to, you know. And as I'm trying to like, get off of the vinyl mat, I roll onto the asphalt, which is like a million times hotter. And at that point, I let out like a high pitched scream, like so high pitched, just like, ah, like, and made like I don't know, probably the ugliest face, and just like screaming. Um, and so I scream, and I'm trying to get up. Um, and Danny stands in the center of the ring and watches me jump to my feet. I roll back in the ring, and I get right into a headlock. And I'm like, Just end it. Do it. I'm done. And I'm just stinging from the heat. My back is all black from the asphalt and stuff like that. It's like sticking to the sunblock. There's little rocks and stuff like that that are hot. And so he gets me in his finishing move, which is the Sultan driver, and it's basically uh, he picks me up and does like a like 1-2 steps running and jumps into like a brainbuster, just and so I go bouncing like that and land, and I'm just lay there like just basking in him counting 1, 2, and 3, and I'm like I still pretend like I'm trying to kick out, but thankfully he held me down at that point, and so it's an easy 3 for him, and I just roll out to the apron, and I'm like the ringside doctor comes and he helps me back to the tent, and he's like, oh, great match. Um, and so they're helping me to a chair inside the tent. And he's checking me if like I'm actually injured or anything like that. But he says I'm good for the most part. I just have like slight heat burn or whatever. Um, and then so like, oh yeah, you can hear the crowd as Danny's leaving and he's coming towards the tent. And he comes in and he's just laughing his ass off, like just laughing. Um, so I look at him and I'm slightly dazed, but I'm more confused about why he's laughing. And he's sorry about the laugh, the fall away, and I'm like, oh, that's alright, man. I rolled out. I don't know if I thought it was closer to the or what, or if he just whipped me so far and so hard that I just fell out. But I'm like, why are you laughing? He's all, I have never heard any guy scream as high pitched as you screamed when you went outside. He's like, I thought you like, it was like, I don't know what I thought, but that was like just, it was like one of those dog whistles or something. Like I guess like I could hear it, and so that was that was a really interesting match. It wasn't that long, and I don't think we wanted to make it like super long because the heat was just getting to us. I don't know who decided we didn't need like a canopy or like something to cover from the heat. It was just terrible, and so um, yeah, I mean, it still was one of my favorite matches of just like the what we were able to do with like so little time, and because I had not really done all that much wrestling up to that point. Um, I don't know. There's some things that like just stick with you. That one kind of stuck with me as a match, probably because of the heat. And then just seeing, Danny stuck with all the footprints. Um, it looked hilarious because he had footprints, and my whole back was just covered in black from the asphalt. But I hope you guys enjoy this one. Sorry, my voice is a little kind of scratchy and stuff. Um, and hopefully I get to do some more of these. Once I start separating out my stories into what the correct matches are, because it's like um, I'm trying not to be like, oh, we were, doing this, we were punching, and then all of a sudden we were kissing, and it's like, wait, what story am I telling? Um, so I noticed that like um, I remember quite a lot from some of them, but some of them kind of run together because it's like it was a match against this guy and it was a match against the same guy, and it's like, wait, why were we in a gym at this point? And then over here we're at a completely different place. So I'm gonna try to get all those straightened out in my head. I had to already separate like 3 of them because there were some people that I used to have matches with, and so this one I was at least able to remember. Um, and I had another bit from another, I guess, story of one of my matches with him. So uh, I'll try and make sure I piece those together because I'm pretty sure there was like quite a bit more that happened in this match. But those are the like the key points that I remember, like this to this to this, and what happened. And um, you'd be amazed at how long 5 minutes feels like, and how much it feels like you have to fill. Um, Especially when you have like a lot of adrenaline going through you. So, like I said, hope you guys enjoy these. Um, like, subscribe if you haven't, and hopefully you guys make it to more of my streams and to more of these story times and some of the games I play. So, I'll see you all next time, and thanks for stopping by.